Hey, what's going on? Welcome to The Doug Show. I'm Doug Cunnington, and I'm very excited for this episode because we're going to be talking about how many blog posts to have on an affiliate site before moving on to the next one. That is not why I'm so excited. I'm excited because my man Benny from Dallas, Texas left a voicemail. That is the driver for this question. So thanks a lot, Benny. And for all you fine listeners out there, you can also leave a voicemail message if you'd like. I'll play it on the air. You obviously get a shout out, and it has to be a decent question. All right, I'll lay it out straight. It has to be a decent question. But I think if you put in the effort to call in, it'll be fantastic. And there's no reason not to give it a shot. So there is a phone number in the description. I won't read it out now because you're probably doing something else, but it's in the description. So whenever you get a minute, you can call in and ask a question, complain, leave a compliment. Actually, don't call and complain. I don't need any more of that. Before I play the voicemail, I want to digress just a little bit and mention a company that I've been using. It's a virtual assistant service, basically. And it's called OK Relax. I'm an affiliate, so if you happen to sign up through my link, I would get a commission. But it's a company that one of my friends told me about, Nick Loper over at Side Hustle Nation. He had mentioned it to me a while back. And essentially, it's like a monthly service where you pay a flat fee and you get a certain number of tasks. So each of the tasks is about a 30-minute task. Something like that. And you can have them do all sorts of things. And in fact, there's a set of ideas for you on the website, but I've been using them to do a little bit of just web research. And I've also been having OK Relax do blog commenting for affiliate sites. And I've just been testing it out and it's been going pretty well. Now, I will mention that all VAs, they need a good set of instructions. And what I discovered is, you send over what you think is a good set of instructions, but there's some, ambiguity in there. There's some areas that maybe it's just not clear. And you can't blame the VA for not quite understanding exactly what you want. Now, I'll step back. Sometimes they just don't get it. But in the case of OK Relax, I haven't had any major issues or anything. It was just okay, they got 80% of the way there. And I see that I needed to give a little bit more clear instruction. So anyway, if you are looking for, a VA service and you have enough tasks to keep them, busy, then I think it's worth checking out. In fact, and I haven't released it yet because I'm still refining, but I will be doing, basically, if you sign up through my affiliate link, I'll share some of the procedures that I've been using with OK Relax. So, for example, if you wanted to have some blog commenting done, I can share my procedures with you, the SOPs, standard operating procedures, and that way you can just share those with the VA and put that in your task for OK Relax. And then I believe you would probably still have to customize a few areas, but it would, again, I think it would get you, 80% of the way there, and then you could refine it as you go. All right, let's get to Benny's question.
This is Benny from Dallas, Texas. I have been a long-time listener. I've listened to a lot of your podcasts and watched a lot of your YouTube videos. So thanks for making all the great content. My question was, how many blog posts would you want on a website before moving on to the next one? Because I currently have one that I'm working on with a friend. We've kind of become business partners. We have around 44, and at the end of the year, I'd like to get to 100, and then move on to the next site, because that will be his first website, and this will be my second one. So trying to figure out when to move on to the next one. We want to experiment, and we love the idea of having, multiple sites, but we also see the value of having an authority site as well. So yeah, if I could just pick your brain and see what number you feel comfortable with, that'd be great. Thanks.
First, Benny, thanks so much for calling in. Really appreciate it. You are the first person that called in. And thank you. Next, you gave me a nice compliment there, and I appreciate the support. Really do. I put out a lot of content. I spent a lot of time, trying to be helpful. So I'm glad that you appreciate it. Now, the meat of your question is, how many posts do you need on a site before you move on to the next site? And really, there's no great way to answer that it's going to work for everyone. The truth is, it really depends on what you're trying to do. So it sounds like you have a multitude of interests and you have a business partner and you're working on it together. Maybe you guys have like tons of ideas and you want to test them out. And you mentioned experimenting and, just trying things. So I can respect that. I mean, especially with two people working on it, again, you may be coming at things from a slightly different angle and want to experiment. So I get that. I mean, that's how you can learn too, right? You get an idea, you can test it out, see if it works or not. That's how you can come up with like maybe some competitive advantage over your competition because you're trying things and you have the capability to try things. Now, you mentioned you have about 44 posts and you want to have about 100 by the end of the year, which sounds fine. I'll just tell you the pros and cons and maybe how I approach it. For me personally, I would probably just like stick to the one site and just put 100% effort in there and make it as big and huge and profitable as possible. That is what I would do, because through many, I wouldn't say mistakes, but having like eyes that are bigger than my stomach, which is the wrong analogy here, but I put too much stuff on my plate. What I'm trying to say is I tried to start too many sites at one time, or even in a staggered fashion, and then realized that I didn't have the time or resources, and at some point, the desire to even like continue on to work on the sites. So they just get neglected. Now, it's not the worst thing in the world. And in fact, I've put some sites aside and haven't touched them in now years, which is insane to me. And they're just sitting there, they're out of the sandbox now, making not much money. I think I probably have like 2 or 3 sites, and cumulatively they're making $100 a month or something like that, which is nothing to sneeze at, right? That's fine. But at the end of the day, it's like I published a lot of stuff and then just left it and didn't do anything after that. So what you don't want to do is find yourself in a position where you're spread too thin, where you're putting, say, 30% effort into 3 different areas. And I know people are probably, you're shaking your fist at me at the radio, at your phone or whatever, wherever you're listening to this. And you're like, well, you know what? As long as I set up a system so that I can get stuff done for each site and have VAs help me, and I'm going to outsource this and outsource that, and I should be able to handle it. You can try. You may be able to do it. People are amazing and people are capable of different things, and everyone's brain works a little bit different. But for me, it was just like a burden of stress. And if you are in a position to be working for yourself like me, by setting that up by setting myself up with too many sites, I basically ended up feeling stressed out and beating myself up because I wasn't working on all the things that I needed to. And I just kept thinking, I need to like add more content over there. There's more keywords that I need to find. And oh no, like the images aren't as good. And oh no, it's this theme, blah, 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 blah. And it just really stressed me out. Now, I eventually got to a point where I was like, you know what? It's going to be okay if I just ignore those sites and focus on other things. And it turns out it is just fine. I can go back to those sites, refresh them, probably come back with like some deeper knowledge and that sort of thing. So for me personally, it makes a lot more sense just to focus on one thing. Don't get too many, irons in the fire there. Just focus on that one iron. And once it's set up, once it's stable, then perhaps move on, right? And maybe this is what you can do. So you say you have a target for 100 posts by the end of the year. And right now, when we're recording this, when you sent it, it's like early April timeframe in 2019. So, I mean, that's a pretty like long stretch of time. And I would assume you would have some system set up within the first couple months. Not just the system set up, but I think you'd be able to set it up, refine it a little bit, and then you still have several months in the year. Now, in that case, what you can do is potentially start a new site so you can get the sandbox like time period running. For people that don't know what the sandbox is, the Google sandbox is a essentially unprovable sort of situation where Google doesn't rank your site quite as highly until after 6 months. And then anecdotally, that's anecdotal as first of all. And then I've also heard there's another sandbox that people seem to come out of after 1 year. And when you think about that, it does make sense. Maybe you get the ball rolling on that site number 2. Maybe you get a little head start. Maybe you only put in 25% time for that, for the second site for the first 6 months. So you just get some content out there and that sort of thing. Now, I think, working with a partner, it gives you some more flexibility to sort of split tasks, and each of you perhaps focus on areas which you excel at, so that you are, maybe a little bit more efficient at writing content or working with VAs or whatever. And maybe your partner, Benny, maybe they're awesome with on-page SEO and they have like a little development background and they can do, some cooler stuff on that side. So this is a super long way to just not really answer your question, but to give you some of the pros and cons. Now, the thing is, you will have time to work on all the things you want to work on. None of us know how much time we have left in this world to get serious, but probably you have a lot of time, and probably you can start five sites. You can write a book. You can go on a walkabout for a couple years, all in your life. But you probably can't do all that stuff this year. But the point I'm trying to make is you don't have to be in a hurry. You could be patient, and I think you will learn more, being patient. And generally, I don't think you're trying to take any shortcuts here. I want to make that clear. But a lot of times people are like, oh, I want to short circuit this whole thing. I want to take the shortcut and blah, blah, blah. And usually that leads to decisions that aren't as good than just being patient and, going through the process, going through the painful process. Now, one thing you don't mention in here, Benny, I don't think, let me just pull up the text of your voicemail. I'm not sure you mentioned how much you're making. So that could be interesting to note. One thing I do like in your question is it's in the subtext here. You don't say it, but you're not focusing necessarily on the dollar amount or traffic. You're focusing on the system of doing the work, which I think is a great thing to do. So you're focusing on getting content published. That's fantastic, because if you are only focusing on those, they call them lagging indicators, right? If you're only focusing on the traffic and the profit, sometimes it's hard to tell if you're doing the right thing, because those are lagging indicators. So I think I can't remember if I talked about that in a previous episode, but a leading a leading sort of indicator or factor would be like the amount of content you're publishing and maybe the number of backlinks you're getting. Those are leading. So you do those things and then the results come after. The lagging indicators are the traffic and the profit, which those are the things that are most important. But if you only focus on those, you're always lagging, especially with the fact that it could take 6 months to get out of the sandbox or a year to really get out of the sandbox. At that point, it's like you don't know what factors and what actions you took to cause the success because it was like a year ago. So anyway, the point is you're focusing on the system, get the content out there, and then hopefully the traffic will come. I'm assuming you're either using the keyword golden ratio or building backlinks. So let me take a quick look to see if there's any other stuff in the question here we need to talk about. I'll throw one other thing out there. And I think the root of your question is, how many posts before moving on? How many posts? 100's arbitrary. It's a nice, the century mark. It's a good arbitrary like milestone. But let me just put some more ideas in your head to make this more confusing. I think there's probably a lot of value, especially given the age of your site by the end of the year, right? So I'm assuming it's been around at least for a little while. Maybe you're already out of the sandbox. I don't know. But basically, there's a huge amount of value in improving the content that you already have. So you already have 44 posts out there. Maybe you're already doing this, but I would say, go have a look at the Google Search Console or Ahrefs or SEMrush or some tool where you can see the keywords that you're ranking for. And you can go back, see the keywords you're ranking for certain URLs, and maybe you're ranking for some terms which you're not even trying to rank for. If you add a little content on that topic, on that keyword phrase, then there's a good chance you're going to move up higher for that particular term. Now, in general, it's probably going to be extreme long tails, in most cases. However, if you do this in aggregate and you just go through, maybe every post doesn't have something that you could add, but if you do this, it will add up. All right. So a few more visitors a day, especially when it's very targeted. Again, those extreme or ultra long tails, they're very specific. People are looking for something, and it's probably very, it's a detailed query. So if you can serve that visitor, that's probably a good thing. So that's just one thing you could do. Using data that you have. Again, the Google Search Console, it's free. Hopefully you're already using that, and then you can just pull data in which no one else can get. I mean, that is data specific for your site from Google, as pure as it can get versus any other of the external tools out there like SEMrush, Ahrefs, which are great. They're both great tools, but you can get it from the Search Console for free. Further, you can also improve the content in at least two other ways I'll just throw out. So one, you can add an FAQ section, just a frequently asked questions section on your post. Oftentimes, if you just Google whatever term you're trying to rank for, there will be many questions in the search engine result page, SERP, where you can just see what people are asking. Google tells you exactly what people are asking. So you can add sections into your content. Additionally, if it happens to be a product review, then this is, a second idea to improve the content. If it's a product review or a series of product reviews, you can add more details to each of the sort of mini reviews for the products if there are multiple products listed on that review. Or you can add more products. Like just find more products that fit the criteria for that particular post and add more of them. So you're just adding to word count, generally improving the quality. And finally, I'll give you three, all right? As I'm talking, I'm thinking of more. So, and the third one is like just to improve the buying guide using the RPM. That's the research paper method. If you're unfamiliar, you can check out I think there's a video on YouTube and on Niche Site Project. I think there's a post or two on the technique, but basically you go out, you do some research, and you fill in the gaps, you improve the content on your site. Most likely you already have a decent amount of content on those posts. So, it shouldn't take a huge amount of time to go out there, do the research, and then fill in the gaps and just make it better. So thanks again, Benny. I really do appreciate the fact that you called in. So if other people have questions, other listeners out there, I'm talking to you, please call in, leave a voicemail, and it'll be awesome. Thank you so much for listening to The Doug Show. I really do appreciate it. I'm just sitting here at my computer recording stuff, and you're listening to it, and I think that's awesome. If you enjoy the show and you know someone who maybe would be interested in it, please let them know. I think it would be fantastic if you help spread the word. If you are not signed up for the Niche Site Project email list, well, you're in luck. All you have to do is go to nichesiteproject.com, click the green button, enter your name and email address, and I'll send you a bunch of cool stuff about affiliate marketing, productivity, including all my templates. If you happen to not be subscribed to this podcast, please do subscribe, and don't forget, I welcome your questions. So you could send your emails to feedback@doug.show. I got that really cool domain, doug.show, that's it. So feedback@doug.show. Or I'm going to leave my voicemail number in the show notes. So all you have to do is give me a buzz, leave a voicemail, and then I'll potentially put you on the air. So looking forward to it, and we'll catch you next time.